Hey everybody, Nick here from Another BookTube channel, and today I'll be reviewing Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. I've had Penpal on my TBR for some time now, as it would keep popping up on recommendation lists from people that I follow on like Instagram and YouTube, but I just kept putting it off for other things. I think my main hang-up that prevented me from getting it sooner was that I had heard that it originated as a creepypasta online, so I had this preconceived notion going into it that it probably wasn't really that good. It was just good by like the standards of something that's written for the internet. I've never really gotten into online writing communities, so with that lack of familiarity came a bias against them. And Penpal has helped me overcome that bias because this book is really damn good. Penpal is written from the perspective of an unnamed narrator who is recounting events from his childhood that seemed innocent in the moment, but now that he's an adult and he's looking back on them, he can see that there was something sinister behind all of them. The story is told in a non-linear fashion, with each vignette filling in a piece of the larger puzzle. I was really taken by surprise by Penpal, not just because of how effective this is as an unsettling horror story, but by the writing talent of Auerbach. In just the first few pages of this book, there is a narration about the nature of memories and how they can become warped or lost completely over time. And even though it's not exactly an original thought, Auerbach's way of describing this had me feeling legitimately emotional. Like, seriously, I was in a cab while I was reading this, and I'm just sitting in the back seat, just having a complete emotional crisis. And from that point on, I was completely on board for whatever would come next. Penpal is essentially 7 chapters long, with each chapter being its own short story about the narrator. With the book being so short, around 250 pages, this creates a bit of a risk because if even one of these stories doesn't work, then that's a pretty significant chunk of your book to have be a failure. Luckily, I didn't find any of the stories in Penpal to be a dud. Each one found ways to provide relevant information to the overarching story while coming up with fresh ways to be frightening. A particular favorite chapter was Screens, in which our 14-year-old narrator goes on probably the worst first date one could possibly imagine. While there are moments of what I'll call active horror that punctuate Penpal, the primary feeling one has reading this book is one of unease. The stories of what happened to the narrator as a child are unsettling, especially because as a child, he didn't realize something was wrong. Auerbach does a really good job of getting into a child's head and having him react to things in a genuine way. Take, for instance, one chapter in which our narrator, who is kindergarten aged at this point, has been collecting some things that are being sent to him by the titular Penpal. I'm not going to say what exactly is being collected because I want to leave some mystery for the book, but I'll say this much. The things that he's being sent are creepy, and because of how young and innocent he is, he doesn't recognize that it's creepy, so he just kind of chucks them in a drawer and forgets about them and ignores them, like, oh, that's just the stuff that my pen pal sent me, like, whatever. The character doesn't really get scared until his mom finds the collection and starts freaking out. Then the narrator is scared, but he's not even scared for the right reason. He's scared because he thinks he's in big trouble for hiding something from his mother. When she calls the cops about what she's found, he thinks she's calling the cops on him because he has done something horribly wrong by hiding this from her. It's a really honest depiction of a child's way of thinking, and I just thought it was really great. In case it's not obvious, I'll make it clear that malice and violence against children is very prominent in Penpal, So if you find stories like that triggering or just not what you personally want to read, that's completely understandable, and I would not recommend it for you. Especially because this is a bleak story in which you won't find a redemptive happy ending. Things start off pretty bad, and they only get worse. Call me a masochist, but I don't mind a good gut punch as long as it's not completely exploitative or indulgent. Penpal rides that line really well and delivers a stark, unwavering story of a corrupted childhood, a haunted man, and a friendship lost. I finished Penpal in a single sitting while on a long train ride between New York and Washington, D.C. But I think even if I wasn't captive with nothing else to do, I still would have eaten this book up in a day. Each time I finished a chapter, I needed to see what fresh hell awaited this poor kid, and before I knew it, it was over. I found myself wanting more, not because the book felt incomplete, but because I enjoyed the stories so much, and I just didn't want them to be over. You really can't ask for anything better than that from a book. My arbitrary and subjective grade for Penpal is 8 out of 10. Do with that what you will. If you've read Penpal, I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments section. Thank you for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.